You may remember when we had the infamous policy blitz, the 4-day blitz of policies that came out from the very, very short lived Liz Truss government that culminated in the financial event of the budget by Kersey Kwarteng, which, well, let down like a complete lead balloon. And it is of no surprise that most of the other things that were announced have very well, slowly but surely, been pushed away, been pushed into the waste paper bin along with the Truss government. But there is one still thing that is still ongoing, and that is Jacob Rees-Mogg's EU revocation and reform bill, which, as we said before, aims to get rid of at least over 2,400 different laws. It's a lot of laws to get rid of, and only giving Parliament and Whitehall only a year to actually get through all this legislation, or otherwise it just disappears. And we've done other videos just talking about how real difficult the challenge of that alone would be if they went through it. But also, MPs themselves are not overly enthusiastic about this. Jacob Rees-Mogg, on the morning that he was sacked by Rishi Sunak, went into the House, back to the backbenchers, delivered his speech during the EU bill, and basically decided to try and make this a bit of an ideological issue as well in the Tory party, which is worrying a lot of Tory party members. But even now, you have Brexiteers that do not want this bill. This is how much unwanted this bill really is, and I am surprised Sunak has not just gone, yeah, this bill needs to just push it into the waste paper bin as well. But this is bringing up, I think, certainly another big flashpoint potentially, and certainly there are a lot of MPs lining up on ideological grounds, those being the pro and ultra Brexiteers versus those who are sort of more in favor of regulation, which has always been the real fault line when it came down to Brexit. And even some Brexiteers are going, yeah, this bill, not really. Yeah, can we not? Because it's going to seem to almost cripple Whitehall at this point, Jacob. Can we not, please? So, yeah, this is going to cause, I think, a very, very big stink. And just a couple of weeks ago, I said, how the Brexiteers are going to be really, really upset. Well, this is almost going to be certainly one cause for the tears that they are about to cry, and could certainly set the direction in which Rishi Sunak might be going in, shall we say, which direction of travel he intends to go when it comes to talking and doing stuff in and around the Brexit discussion. So, as always, before we get into this, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. And also, there is the YouTube thank you button down below as well, and the Pony Club as well, should you like to support me that way. So, let's dive on into this, because this could certainly become very, very interesting very quickly. And like I say, we did tell you we would keep an eye on this bill. So, this comes from The Guardian with the title of Rees-Mogg's plan to axe all EU laws will cripple Whitehall, says leading Brexiteer. One of the Tory party's leading Brexit supporters has raised concerns about the plan to scrap over 2,400 EU laws by the end of next year, as fears grow that the policy will just overwhelm the civil service and bring the government to a virtual standstill. Former Environmental Secretary Teresa Villas, who backed Brexit in 2016, told The Observer that the proposals would take up vast amounts of civil service time and would involve undoing legislation that, in many cases, was broadly popular and good for the country. We have just had a Brexiteer admit right there that not only is EU regulation popular, but good for the country. This is... yeah, I can guarantee you can go back to 2016 and you can find Teresa Villas probably saying about how bad, um, you know, EU regulations are and how awful they are, but never, and I've said this and stressed this, I don't know how many times when we've come to this conversation, Brexiteers cannot point to laws that they hate because they cannot bring themselves. Because when you start talking about individual regulations and rules and laws, that's where people go, well, actually, I quite like that law. I quite like that I get, guaranteed paid holidays. I quite like that, chemical industries are heavily regulated and can't, just go dumping random chemicals into the environment, at their whims. That's the conversation that they want to avoid. But here we have now all these laws up for being, thrown out, and this is could become quite interesting for Rishi Sunak. I really do think this could be quite interesting. But anyway, back to it. Other senior Tories are growing concerned that the EU retained law bill, championed by Jacob Rees-Mogg before Rishi Sunak sacked him before becoming Prime Minister, is in danger of becoming an ideological milestone. During his leadership campaign against Liz Truss, Sunak backed plans to strike as much EU legislation as possible from the UK statute book in what seemingly was like a bidding war for right-wing votes amongst the Brexit-supporting Tory party membership. But since he became Prime Minister, there have been suggestions that he might even water down the plans by extending the sunset clause or for scrapping the bill by 3 years to the end of 2026. But Tory whips fear that doing so will provoke a backlash from right-wingers led by Rees Mogg. Villas, a former MEP, made it clear. However, the Jacob Rees-Mogg proposals appear unrealistic, these cited very particular concerns about the effects of scrapping EU laws on the environment. We don't even know exactly how many laws there are retaining to the environment that would be impacted by the bill, but groups have counted them up to at least 570 that needed to be looked at in a way that is in a relatively short period of time, Villas said. This is an immense amount of work to do, and my fear is the work may not be completed by either the 2023 or the 2026 deadline. The legislation, such as the deposit return scheme, which were designed to encourage recycling of items such as plastic bottles, is broadly popular both with the public and the drink sector, and has taken years to get onto the statute book, but was now under threat, Villas said. That was a commitment committed to that in 2018. So it's been 4 years, but it's still not yet being implemented. And that demonstrates that even the relatively political straightforward change isn't that easy. And 18 months is demanding. We need to ensure the bill works. Some senior Conservatives also believe that the bill will have to be, at the very least, extended to amend and make it very less prescriptive. So it focuses only on pieces of legislation that are obviously redundant and easy to strike off the statute book, and that may be needed to be replicated by EU laws, by precisely UK laws. The former cabinet minister, Damien Green, who opposed Brexit, said that there were real questions about what would be put in place of the legislation that would be scrapped and how fast that could be done. My fear is a practical one. Those regulations will need to be replaced in a very short amount of time. Otherwise, there will be laws with big holes in them, he said. I hope someone in government has thought through the practicalities of this. And that's my fear too. That's been my fear the whole time. That if you start getting rid of these laws willy-nilly, there are potentially massive gaping holes in laws and loopholes that could just open up because, well, all of a sudden, there is no law regarding that anymore because it was an EU law and it's now gone. You can see the problem with this law. It's already being pointed out about just how bad this was. But this has been done, as we said, on purpose to try and get rid of as much EU law as possible, to get rid of as much EU regulations as possible. Because they knew they couldn't get rid of it all, because they knew that eventually some would be kept, but they knew that they could get rid of enough. And that has been I've been taking the view on that's why Rees Mogg did this bill. And to be honest, it needs to just die. It needs to just to go. Just needs to be thrown back into the whole Brexit trash pile that it came from. But anyway, it continues. Another Tory MP who opposed Brexit, Richard Graham, said the question for the government is whether the sheer volume of laws that needed conversion is a practical and desirable goal before the next general election. The alternative is to focus on a smaller number where the conversation leads immediately to changes, highlighting the opportunities by leaving the EU by amending our own laws. For many of us, that is both a more practical and has more potential benefit than those who voted to get Brexit done. The opposition to the bill is also mounting from business groups, legal experts, and unions, all of which say this is causing unnecessary uncertainty over which laws will apply in just a year's time. Jonathan Jones, who headed the group for legal services from 2014 to 2020 and dealt with the complex legal challenges of Brexit, said, I think it is absolutely ideological and symbolic rather than about real policy. A government spokesperson who denied that there would be any major changes to the bill, despite Whitehall sources confirming that there were signs of a rethink may be underway. The spokesperson said, the government is committed to taking full advantage of the Brexit benefits of Brexit, of which we were always pushing ahead with, and in the retained EU law bill, which will end the special legal status of all the retained EU law and make it more easily to amend, repeal, or replace. This will allow us to ensure that our laws and regulations best fit the needs of the country while removing unnecessary bureaucracy in order to support jobs whilst keeping important protections and safeguards. Again, it's not about that. This bill would remove hundreds of thousands of laws and it would cause huge problems. And all the MPs are pointing this out, just how bad this is. And when you've got Brexiteers, saying, yeah, hold on, guys, this bill isn't good. It's not good at all. And the sheer amount of work, the gaps this could create in laws and legislation is terrifying. It is shocking. And I've said before, this needs to be brought up to more import. That's why I've said before, if you haven't done it already, please do write to your MP, email your MP, tell them to oppose this bill because it is just not a good bill, first of all. The objectives of this bill aren't exactly 100% clear. There are better ways in which to do this by individually looking at these different EU laws and so on. There's all sorts of different ways that this could be done, but doing it in this way is absolutely ridiculous. It is reckless and could lead to lots of damage in all sectors of UK law and society. So please, if you haven't done so already, please do write or email your MP. It is very easy to do, and it will only take less than about 5 minutes of your time to do. So, as always, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below to my Patreon page and the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, or we can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.